trouble. That's right, it's time for Jim Does SuperCoach, the Week 6 wrap, the Week 7 look ahead. I am, of course, your host, James Clements. And before we jump in, make sure you're all around NBA Straya, NFL Straya, plenty of shows coming out the wazoo at the moment. We'll also be covering NBA Supercoach on this show, of course. It is Jim Does SuperCoach, not just NFL Supercoach. So lots of fun gear in the works. But anyway, Week 6, what a week it was in the NFL. As we all expected, Rico Dowdle went off again. Rips off another 60-plus score. Sure. But also, I guess, like, the story of the week is that running backs are back. They were fantastic for us this week in some cases. And some others, not great. I'm looking at you, Javonte Williams. Anyway, how did we go this week? I hope you went well. I landed a 495, which landed me in the top 5%. Bit of a dip from last week, though. But overall, I'm ranked 340. So in the top 1%. So I actually went up 226 places from last week, despite having a bit of a lower score from the week prior. And I guess that's because the week 6 average score was, I believe, only 391, which is a bit down on the week prior. A lot of this comes down to some injuries that really put a lid on a few of these players out there. Obviously, Puka Nacua, obviously our man Wk7 Egbuka. Bit of a rough one. Even Rome Odunze had a quiet week, but you get that on the big jobs. So yeah, the comp average being 391 this week. Bit down considering it was 437 the week previous. The top 5% average for this week, though, was 524. So there's a bit of wiggle room in that top 5%. And I guess the reason that I ended up still moving upwards in the ranks was because a couple of my pods did pretty well, my points of difference. But also, when you've got Egbuka owned by 66% of the league, you've got Puka Nacua owned by 45%, we're all being affected by those injuries, right? So it's your other points of difference that stand out. So to wrap up my week as well, I actually did end up doing some trades last week. I used Amari and Hampton to go up to Javonte Williams, thinking that I'd have a pretty good day against Carolina, to the point where I even sat Jahmyr Gibbs on the bench, which was the right move because I think he only managed 14 points. But Javonte Williams was like completely stymied by that Carolina run defense. He only scored me 11. So that was a bit of a rough one. -3 points there. And I did bring in Darren Waller after Brock Bowers was officially out of the Raiders lineup. So he sat on my bench, made a boatload of cash. Happy with that one. So really, mostly the top coaches got hit by injuries to Puka Nacua, who managed 7 points this week. He also plays in London this week and has a week 8 bye. So the big question from here on out will be, we're keeping a very, very close eye on the travel schedule of the Rams because they have to fly out to London early. So we'll know whether or not he's on the plane or if he just stays home. So this could be a 2-week missing of Puka Nacua. And then Emeka Egbuka, he has got a hammy strain. It is not a hammy tear reportedly. So probably looking at a few weeks there. We don't have any official reports yet though, so we're keeping an eye on those. Also, Rome Odunze had a touchdown call back, which was absolutely ridiculous if you ask me. He was also owned by 35% of coaches. So I guess you can sort of see where that the squishiness in the top 5% of scores came from this week. And so I guess across the board, there were some pretty interesting top scores. Let's get into them with our top Week 6 scorers. By position. Let's start with the QBs in Week 6. It was a pretty wild week, right? You had 62 points for our man Patrick Mahomes. Oh, geez, Jim, I did pretty well. Didn't exactly light up Detroit, but did enough. And his newfound confidence in his scrambling ability, because they've got very, very little of a run game there in KC, means he's got a pretty high floor week to week, does our Mahomes. Drake May, similar kind of vibe, had a bit of a scamper here or there. Also threw a couple of touchdowns this week, which is kind of nice. He had 53. Danny Dimes, who is my flex position at the moment, he had 46. Jackson Dart, the rookie, goes bang with a 46 as well. Dak Prescott, he was my captain this week, 44. Same as Jaden Daniels. Good to see him back in form and back on the field. Jalen Hurts with 42. Same as Jacoby Brissett, a.k.a. the Brisket. Caleb Williams, he looked really good in that Monday Night Football game, scored 40. And Darnold rolled out a 39. Baker, Bryce, 38. Justin Herbert's 37. But I mean, this is the big one. Josh Allen is a bit of a disappointment here with 34. I'll talk about him again later. Running backs, we had Bijan Robinson with 65 go bang against the Buffalo Bills. You had Rico Dowdle with 63. Cam Skater, boo! 59. Back on Friday morning. I'll talk about him again in a second too. Josh Jacobs ran in a couple of touchdowns, 58 SuperCoach points, 57 for Devon Achane. DeAndre Swift, he's pretty good when he's playing that Washington defense. Defense being, used pretty loosely when it comes to their run day. He had 48. Jonathan Taylor managed 42. Could have been a few more, but took a while to get into the end zone, but he got there eventually. The rookie, Kamani Vidal, had 41 for the Chargers. Just saying, not a bad look. Christian McCaffrey with 40 and Rashad White, 32, rounds out the top 10. Ashton Genty just misses the top 10 with 31. He was pretty solid. Expected a bigger game, though, from him from Tennessee. He got sat back half of the fourth quarter. Don't know what's going on there. Got to keep an eye on that, too. Wide receivers, we had George Pickens. Just saying, called a couple of weeks ago. He's been in my team ever since. He had 54. He was great. Drake London called this one last week as well. I did not get him into my team. I didn't really need to. He ripped off a massive 53. JSN also in my team, 52. Kayshawn Booty playing for my beloved Patriots, 47. He was great. Jamar Chase. He's like, how good is it actually having a QB can throw me the ball? He had 40. Lad McConkey, 39. Brian Thomas Jr. BTJ, 38. 37 for Hollywood Brown. 35 for DK Metcalf. Looking very nice there with Aaron Rodgers. Sneaky pickup at 14 mil. Wandale Robinson had 34 as well. Kendrick Bourne's the other interesting one there, 33. And then everyone has Tet McMillan, 57% of coaches still got him. He had 32. I called that. Had to keep him and play him on the field this week. Felt great about it. He delivered. Tight ends we had. Dallas got it. Just boom or bust weeks for him, right? If he gets into the end zone, bang, 43 for him. Trey McBride, 34. Tyler Warren, 30 and 3. Sam Laporta, solid game. Thought it would be a bit bigger. He had 28. 27 for the Michael Mayer, the backup tight end there for the Raiders. Zach Ertz, Tyler Higbee, Harold Fannin Jr., Tucker Kraft, and Jake Ferguson, along with Travis Kelce, rounding out that top 10. All basically split between, 26 and 21 points. The tight end position. It's like, yeah, if you get a touchdown, cool, but no one's really tearing it up right now. Trey McBride was solid with Brissett under center and got it. Like, Hurts is doing so little else. It's just like, hey, we'll give it to Dallas. And the kickers, Dicker the kicker. He had a game-winning field goal. He ends up with 44. Eddie Pinheiro, same sort of vibe. He had 36. Blake Groupie had 32. Jake Moody, his game winner got him to 32 as well. Boswell, 30. Fitzgerald, 28. Myers, 26. Folk, 24. Chad Ryland, 22. Andre Schmidt, 22. Brutal for my man, Andy Borregales. He ended up with 10. And was hoping a bit more going on there in New Orleans. Just wasn't really called upon. It was a bit of a sad one, really. And then the defense, special teams, your top 10s here were the Rams at 34, the Raiders, 32. Denver, 26 over there in London against the Jets. Not a bad return. I mentioned this. They actually rose in price. They had a massive break even. They actually just got by it. The Seahawks with 22 is the same as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Steelers 20, Bears 18, Falcons 18, Chargers and Giants 16. Those are the best performers of week 6. Who were the biggest surprises? Well, obviously Rico Dowdle going back to back and just going, cool, how good is it having 200 yards from scrimmage each week? I'm awesome. He had a great revenge game up against Dallas. Love that. Bijan going that big was pretty cool. Drake London also going that big was pretty cool, but not a giant surprise. I mentioned them both on last week's show to the point where I was basically going back and forth on Javonte Williams and Bijan Robinson, bringing them in. Thought the Javonte had he was going to make a bunch of money. Bijan ends up going $1.4 million up in price anyway because of his massive 65. Whereas the 11 points scored by Javonte Williams, he's still only, after all that, he only went up $850K. So breaking my heart, Javonte. But the big one is obviously Scatterboo rips off 3 touchdowns against the Eagles. 59 points. I benched him in favor of, who did I actually have in draft? It was no one as good. I sat him in the draft league and then watched him rip off 59. If you had him in Classic, you'd be feeling pretty good about it. Yeah, I think I Bill Krosky Merritt on field thinking he'd have a pretty good game against Chicago. And there was a couple of minutes where he did, and then he had a fumble and it was not that good. A-Chain having 52, not completely out of the blue, but it's just a strange game for Miami as well. DeAndre Swift having 48. Kind of nice. And as I sort of mentioned, this is the thing. Maybe we keep an eye on who's playing Washington because their defense is just, oof. And Kayshawn Booty, Yeah, 47. Love that for him. The other sort of big surprises, I mean, for this week, watching Scatterboo go off was pretty gnarly. We get that. But it's more like Jackson Dart having 46 against the Eagles, Scatterboo having the 59. The Eagles defense without, Jalen Carter in the middle, apparently very gettable. Kamani Vidal stepping out there and having 41. Jacoby Brissett, 42. Whereas Kyler Murray hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a million years. That was pretty cool. So good job by them. And Jamar Chase also ripping off 40 with old man Joe Flacco now as his QB. Just something to keep in mind. We'll talk about that in a second. The biggest flops from the week. Josh Allen only managing 34 against Atlanta. I mentioned this on last week's show. I was happy riding Danny Dimes for a couple more weeks. Let Josh Allen get by his bye, which I believe is a week 8 bye, and then maybe switch off from Danny Dimes. The Bills just look completely off their feet at the moment. And Josh Allen has these like classic Josh Allen sort of sketches of what he used to look like every game. And he's just not putting it all together as a proper picture. It's really strange, but hopefully it'll get better. Egbuka's 6, Nacua's 7, Rome Odunze's 8. Obviously a bit of a heartbreaking flop there, a couple of injuries. Odunze's 8 was really stymied by the callback touchdown that he had on just like a really stupid call that broke your heart. 7 points for Trevion Henderson and Travis Hunter. Just a couple of rookies that were very popular and are very obviously stalling out. 7 points for Quinshon Judkins was a bit of a flop. 8 points for Marvin Harrison Jr. before he left with concussion. He's owned by 8% of coaches. The 10 points for Bill Krosky Merritt. 14 for Saquon. There are a lot of problems there in Philly. At the top of the list, probably the passing game. Probably number 2, the secondary. Number 3, probably Saquon not ripping off big runs anymore. The 11 points for Javonte Williams, breaking my heart there. 14 for Jahmyr Gibbs. 17 for James Cook. 5 points for Garrett Wilson. 11 for Breece Hall. That Jets team is blocked. 2 for Troy Franklin. 8 for Mark Andrews. Even Amon-Ra only managed, I think, the 18 points this week. And he was like a possible trading candidate last week. I told you to, just pump the brakes maybe a little. Because remember, he's got the same buy as like, I believe it's like JSN and Puka Nacua all have buys in week 8. So 18 sort of helps me out a little bit in terms of his price for when I want to get him in after his buy. But for now, he's just come off 28 against Cincinnati, 18 against KC. Has Tampa Bay this week, the buy, then Minnesota. Just saying, aiming now for Amon-Ra to come in week 10 against Washington. That's the plan. So the biggest worries, injuries are obviously the biggest worries of the week. Puka Nacua, Emeka Egbuka. The worst part about it is that we don't have any concrete information as we're taping this Wednesday afternoon, our time. They have gone in for scans. They've been looked at. And we're getting to this point where it's like, okay, we at least have a little bit of runway with Puka where he'll either be on the plane to the UK or not. And then he has a bye the following week. So we'll at least have a little bit of clarity. Emeka Egbuka, the hamstring strain, he did go back out there. Oh no, Puka went back out there as a decoy at different parts of that game after he hurt his ankle. So you do wonder just how bad it is going to be, but it's like one of those classic a day or two after the injury is probably when it gets even worse. Whereas Egbuka, like a hamstring strain, it's usually at least sort of that 2-week period. So keep an eye on him. If he is ruled out, that's probably the easier one to move off from, but we're going to keep an eye on all of these sorts of dudes. Garrett Wilson hurt his knee as well. There's a couple of other injuries floating around. Brock Bowers is still out for the Raiders. He might sit through there by... Genty was fine, but that team is just horrible, like in general. And remember, the biggest worries as well, just the defenses. If you're going up against Denver, I don't know who you're starting. Even Justin Fields got sacked 9 times by the Denver Broncos defense. They've got 30 sacks for the season. They're crushing it. So you could also maybe look at teams who are playing the likes of the Jets or the Bengals and maybe look at those defenses there. But either way, the cash cows we're watching after this week, Jackson Dart, obviously, for the QBs. QB cash cows. He went up $4.7 million after his big week against the Eagles. He's still got a break even of -33. So if you want to switch over from JJ McCarthy, if we don't have any news about JJ McCarthy starting this week, if you've still got him on your bench, If you want to switch over to Jackson Dart and make a bit of cash, still, because he's still going to go up a giant amount, the key thing with Jackson Dart as well, the scampering, the running, the rushing yards gives him a pretty amazing point scoring floor week on week. He's gone 38, 35, 46, and he's got no pass catches. So a lot of this is being held up by his running ability. They do play Denver, and I just mentioned this, right? They play Denver this week, Philly again, and then the Niners, who are without Fred Warner and a bunch of their other defenders. But with no pass catches, I'd be a little bit cautious. I mean, he has already run on the Chargers. He's run against the Saints. He's run against Philly. And if you're hard up for cash, I mean, jumping over there to him and trying to make a big, cash splash on your bench, he'll go up another 2+ mil this week. So that's all right. I'm probably going to stick with JJ McCarthy for the minute. Dylan Gabriel's the other one, minus 19, break even this week, up to 5.5 mil from 3.7 mil. Probably another 1.7 mil price rise incoming for him. For the simple fact, Dylan Gabriel, they play Miami this week, do the Cleveland Browns. That's basically a coach leaves town match. So I reckon at home, they'll feel pretty good about Dylan Gabriel, but he's also just not very good. So I'd probably rather ride with Jackson Dart or JJ McCarthy, who's still got a minus 35 break even once he comes back from his ankle injury. Jacoby Brissett's got a break even of 14. He's at 7 mil. I think it's minus 14 after filling in for Kyler Murray. We don't know when he's going to come back. The other big names ones like Mahomes and Dak are still going to rise in price a little bit. Penix and CJ, they're at 17 mil, that mid-pricer QB. They're going to go up in price as well, but I think we can do better around those prices with the QBs. I mean, you think about Danny Dimes. You think about Drake May. You think about even Mahomes is now at 25 mil. It just sort of Baker's at 24. It doesn't take a giant amount to get up to even someone like Caleb Williams, who I think probably gives you a higher ceiling than Penix and CJ. The running back cash cows, Rico Dowdle's got a break even of minus 44. He's priced at 14 mil. He could go up another 4 mil, and that could be a jumping pad to your Bijan, your McCaffrey, whichever massive super duper star running back you don't have in your team. Rico could make you a bit of cash for another week or two until Chuba Hubbard comes back. Then you could jump back off him. I'm just saying, that could be a plan. Kamani Vidal, also a great looking cash cow. He's priced at 4 mil. He's got a break even of minus 23. I think he did a pretty good job this week for the Chargers. They do have still a bit of a committee there where they've brought in, they've got Hassan, the other running back, is as I keep calling because I keep forgetting his last name. It's pretty crazy. It is Hassan Haskins, because I keep going Haskins is no, Hampton. There you go. Hassan Haskins. They also brought in Najee Harris, but Kamani Vidal looked awesome. He had 41 this week, so he'll go up pretty massively next week. So if you want a cheapy running back cash cow to free up money elsewhere, he's your man. Bam! Zonovan Knight. He's also another one. 3.7 mil, break even to minus 20. He'll go up another 2 mil next week. The Cardinals have got very few options on the ground. Scatterbo still got a break even to minus 10 and at 13 mil, so he's a really good option. But as I mentioned, I don't know if matchups really matter for Cam Scatterbo. He's just going to run straight through everybody anyway. Woody Marks, keep an eye on him. Still a break even to minus 15 if you really like that Houston matchup. It's a bit of a weird one this week, playing Seattle, so I'm not really convinced. Amari DiMercado dropped the ball last week, of course. Break even to minus 6, 4.3 mil. I just don't really trust him. I'd rather not. Quinshon Judkins, as I mentioned, had a bit of a quiet one this week too. RJ Harvey, Bill Krosky Merritt, Trevion Henderson. They're all sort of stalling out a bunch. And the last one is Kenny Gainwell. Managed a 12-point week this week with Jalen Warren back. His role has completely changed. His break even to minus 15 is good, but I don't know if he's going to make you too much more money. Wide receivers, Kendrick Bourne. Love this one. He's got a break even to minus 26. He's Mac Jones' favorite target. He is just getting peppered, right? He's at 8.3 mil. I love me some Kendrick Bourne. Like, that Niners team is an absolute train wreck. But if Ricky Pearsall comes back, maybe Kendrick Bourne drops off a little bit. So just keep an eye on that. Kayshon Boutte, he's got a break even to minus 16, price of 7.8 mil. Very, very touchdown dependent. Obviously, that entire Patriots offense. but Drake May is slinging it. He's going to go out there and throw on third and long, go, all right, here's a 45-yard bomb. Check this out. How about some actual real good cheapies on your cash cows? The Johnsons down there in Tampa Bay. Kam and Tez. Cam's got a break even of -14. That starts with a K. Tez has got a break even of -12. Both around that 4 million mark. Both have Detroit this week, who have no secondary. That is a really good cheapie option. The other one's Drake London. He's got a break even of -11. I'm all over him as my replacement probably this week for Egbuka. We'll get to that in a second. Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden were both also really good for Green Bay. Both have pretty solid break evens too. Interesting point of differences, but the point is with Green Bay, you don't know which one's going to hit each week. Golden being cheaper probably helps. He's probably going to make a bit of money. Feels like he's going to really warm into the season and become basically one of the top 2 targets there for Green Bay and Jordan Love. But he's also fighting with Romeo Doubs. You've got Tucker Kraft, obviously, as their tight end. You've basically just got a lot of mouths to feed. Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson. Like, that wide receiver room was always packed. Reed being out helps. Christian Watson will be back seemingly at some point as well. So, I don't know. But Golden, probably a little bit more upside. The other one for me, Ladd McConkey. Break even to -5, 10.7 million price. A lot of passing from Justin Herbert this week. Love that for him. The last one to keep an eye on is Higgins on Houston. With Christian Kirk sort of back in the mix, I don't know. You've got Nico Collins. Probably just steer clear of Higgins. For the tight ends, Darren Waller is still going to make a bit of cash. He's gone now 32, 32, and 16. Price went up 2.9 mil. Obviously, super touchdown dependent. He got a touchdown right at the end of that game, which really saved his day. He's at 6.6 mil. He went up $2.9 million this week. He's still got a break even of -12. So I jumped off Bowers to free up some cash, gone on to Darren Waller. Feel good about it because I've got like a treasure trove still sitting there that I can upgrade players with. So they play Cleveland though this week. Do the Miami Dolphins in Cleveland. Bit of a tough one, but Waller, look, he's that cheap. If he catches like anything in the red zone, you're probably laughing. A couple of Detroit Lion tight ends. Brock Wright, he's priced at 4 mil. His break even is -13, but Sam Laporta is obviously the big one. Break even of -9, 10.2 mil. The Sam Laporta, Jake Ferguson types, break even of 9 for Ferguson. Fascinating because McBride finally showed up this week with Brissett under center. Tyler Warren's been crushing it. It feels like those are my 2 set and forget tight ends for a little bit. With Waller on my bench, I feel okay about that. But Michael Mayer, Bowers back up there in the Raiders. He's got a break even of -4 as well if you need a cheapo. But Waller's probably the better option there. The kickers, I mean, doesn't really matter. It's such an absolute crapshoot week on week about which kicker is going to go off. Hopefully, look, Tyler Loop had a really quiet one because Baltimore are horrible. You can probably jump off that rookie now. Eddie Pinheiro, he's 11.2 mil, break even of -9. Carolina's Ryan Fitzgerald, break even of -8. But they're all priced roughly similar. The one to keep an eye on is Michael Badgley in Indy. He's going to break even of 3. He's at 5 mil. He's only played the 1 game, so he'll be on the bubble next week. The defense special teams. It's very, very different this week in terms of the cash cows for the defense special teams because it's all the bad teams. The Titans, the Saints, the Raiders, the Cowboys. But then you got the Houstons. They've got a break even of 2. They're priced at 9.5 mil. They play Seattle, though, in Seattle. Seattle haven't been that great at home. Houston will probably have a pretty good game. They're about the only defense I like, probably in the top 10 of the cash cows this week. So everyone who's got a break even of less than 9, they're the only one I kind of like. The actual sort of top ones that I do like, Denver up against the Giants. They've got a break even of 16. They're priced at 10.4 mil. Love that for them. But considering I've already got the Pats locked and loaded at 6.8 mil and they're playing Tennessee, I feel like I'm right. I've got Detroit sitting there too on my bench. And Detroit, look, they've got a big break even of 34. They play Tampa Bay. Who knows what Baker's going to do this week, but I feel okay about Detroit maybe just sort of like getting after him a little bit. But Baker might also just be throwing to wide open Johnsons in the backfield. The trades for this week then. What are we looking at, Jim? Well, it all depends on the injury news, doesn't it? Puka, owned by 47.5% of coaches. Egbuka, owned by 66% of coaches. Oh boy, I felt pretty good about moving off Travis Hunter last week. Oh wait, no, I didn't. that was going to be the option to go to Amon-Ra St Brown, which I'll get to in a second. Moving off Bowers last week, it hurts your heart. I think he's awesome, but he's just obviously banged up with that PCL injury. Going to Waller was smart. The Javonte Williams just versus going to Bijan, that's killing me. To the point where I might just swap him out for Bijan right now as a rage trade, but I'll maybe just chill for a second. Dallas, they've got a pretty interesting matchup at home this week against Washington. And remember, DeAndre Swift tore up Washington this week, so I'm probably going to ride with Javonte again for one more. But look, I've got Nico Collins coming back in this week off my bench, so I have got cover if I don't want to trade this week and just ride out injuries to Egbuka and to Puka. I might still do that, but if Egbuka is out for more than a couple of weeks, I'll probably go from him to Drake London. I've still got Nico, JSN, Pickens. If we can ride with Puka Nacua on the bench for a week, the Tet McMillan matchup this week feels pretty good as well because Carolina play against the Jets. So I'm okay with like having Tet as my wide receiver 6 again because he gave us 32 points this week. That's pretty cool. But if Egbuka has to go because he's out for more than a couple of weeks with that hammy, he's probably the one more likely to go for me instead of Puka. Everybody else I'm pretty okay with. I want to basically keep a few trades in my pocket because, as we saw this week, injuries hit, and when they do, you're scrambling, and you've got to keep a couple of trades up in your pocket there. So, in terms of other targets for that wide receiver injury mess, if you want to go from Puka, if you've got him, if you want to go from Egbuka, if you've got him, if you don't have Nico Collins, if you don't have Jackson Smith and Jigba, if you don't have Pickens, probably my top picks there. McConkey's a pretty good one. He's only on 7% of teams. Kendrick Bourne is only on 0.9%. He's an interesting pod. But as I said, if Ricky Pearsall comes back, Kendrick Bourne probably takes a tiny little bit of a hit. But by the same token, the Niners have still got very, very little in terms of pass catchers on that team that are any good. And Kendrick Bourne and Mac Jones are just like, I don't know, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in twins. Or like me and Aaron Bangers Baines. Brian Thomas Jr. is another one to keep an eye on. Jacksonville, like every time it feels like he gets this massive completion, he gets called back because that Jacksonville team is so messy and they get pinged for so many stupid penalties. But he's an interesting one. And as I mentioned last week, I'm going to wait until after week 8, probably even after week 9 now for Amon-Ra because he's got the same buy as JSN, Puka, etc. So he managed only the 18 points this week, dropped 1.1 mil. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe Tampa Bay stymie Detroit a little bit this week. They are playing at home, though, Tampa Bay, at Detroit. So, bit of a weird one. I'm still probably going to cool my Jets and Amon-Ra, wait till week 10. So, the big one there is sitting just bright flashing lights too, isn't it? Ja'Marr Chase. Could we feasibly bring back in Ja'Marr Chase? 33% of coaches have still got him on their team. That's pretty smart. He actually completely arrested his free-falling price with 40 points this week, so he's basically net again, priced around that $18 million mark. I mean, not bad, right? So he currently is 18.3 mil. He's dropped 5.3 from his starting price. He's got Joe Flacco throwing long bombs down to him. The problem is that Cincinnati team is just also not very good. They also now play Pittsburgh on, Thursday night football, Friday morning football our time. So, I don't know. Pittsburgh's not a great secondary. They have given up only 7 touchdowns, though, for the year to wide receivers and pass catchers. So, maybe there's another bit of a dip coming for Chase. And maybe having one more week of seeing what Flacco can do. But he's always a sneaky late touchdown chance anyway, as we saw the last couple of weeks. So, anyway, so my trades at the moment, the way it sits, it looks like much more likely that Egbuka will be out for a few weeks, more so than Puka. So I'll hold one of them, and the other one I'll likely trade to Drake London for the minute because I'll trust Tet versus the Jets. That's how we go. Trust Tet v. Jets. Bringing Bijan in for Javonte Williams is against the Niners. I do have cash to burn, but I want to see Williams maybe with this Dallas team taking on Washington. He could probably rip off another massive one for me. I might just wait until we get Bijan back at home because that Atlanta team is a different team at home. So with 16 trades left, I'll probably cover one of those 2 injured wide receivers this week. That might be it. I like the Pats defense against Tennessee. My kicker, I'll probably keep Borregales for one more week because he could have a lot of work to do in Tennessee too. And the same goes for Trevion Henderson. He might have a sneaky breakout week this week. So though the temptation is there to use, he's only at 6.2 mil. He's the completely stalled out cash cow. But he could have that one big week against the Titans. The Titans' run defense hasn't been completely shockingly bad or anything. But I'm just saying, we might be able to just see if Henderson, I feel like Mike Vrabel might be just sick of Ramondre Stevenson just not being very good. And we'll go from there. So maybe I'm going to keep an eye on our man Trevion. All right, outside of that, so get him in. If I'm going to rank some folks that you want to get into the team, it's probably, look, if you've got the cash out there, Rico Dowdle, he's going to make you an absolute mint this week, and you can then use him as a stepping stone again. This is a little bit convoluted. You're going to have to use a couple of trades to do so, but it's not a bad option. He's going to make a lot of money in that running back position. And then once Chuba Hubbard comes back, who knows what's going to happen, but you can then jump off him onto one of the other top-notch running backs. Drake London is probably my top wide receiver target this week. Jackson Dart, if you need to basically move off someone like Cam Ward, or if you really need to desperately cash out JJ McCarthy, go get Dart, etc. JSN, he's got 40% of the targets there. He's got a massive target share in Seattle. The 52 this week, but he does play Houston this week, so I don't know about that one. Darren Waller, Kamani Vidal, they're probably the biggest ones for me. And then the captains this week, I've got probably Dak against Washington at home, bottom 10 passing defense, and not having Puka up against Jacksonville in London or something like that early. Maybe if you've still got Jamar Chase, throw the VC on him against Pittsburgh just in case he catches 3 touchdowns out of nowhere as Joe Flacco goes massive. Danny Dimes is on my team, so my captain there. I mean, it's going to be a little bit weird with no Buffalo this week or Baltimore. You've suddenly got no Josh Allen. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's hurt anyway, but the Chargers host Indy. Might be a bit of a weird week for Danny Dimes, but I'm going to ride him for one more week. I'll put the C on Dak Prescott, I think, for the week because Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey, McCaffrey plays Atlanta. They did a pretty good job of slowing down James Cook this week. Jonathan Taylor, obviously, against the Chargers, who just, I don't know, A-Chain did go off. So maybe Jonathan Taylor is a good VC option. But because Dallas and Indy are playing at the same time, it's a bit of a tough one. So, I don't know. Jahmyr Gibbs against Tampa Bay, possibly. Throw him on the field. That's a Monday night game. You could probably loop McCarthy, possibly. Or I could just go Dak, because I think they're going to tear up Washington at home. But there you go. That's it, I think. Was there anything else we needed to hit on? I don't think so. That, I believe, is it for the Week 6 wrap of Jim Does SuperCoach, the Week 7 preview, etc. Check us out across all the socials, Twitter, IG, Facey, TikTok, YouTube. Get around NFL and NBA Straya as well. Plenty coming out this week still. We've got lots and lots of other videos going off. We'll do the team reveal at the end of the week before Friday morning football. That will come out basically explaining what moves I did end up making. We've just talked it through now, either way, so go check that out. Make sure you're following on the socials. Tell anyone who gets into the SuperCoach. And guess what? We'll do some NBA SuperCoach later this week on this feed as well. So if you're into that, check that out too. This is Jim Does SuperCoach. Happy SuperCoaching.